Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Mostly From Scratch. I'm your host Mr. Munchies. Now if you just got done watching the Southwest pork soup episode, you know that I'm going to make a roux for you now. It's going to be real quick, real simple. My general rule is 1 tablespoon of flour to 1 tablespoon of butter, and for each quart of liquid that you're doing you want to do roughly 3 tablespoons to 1 quart, maybe 4 tablespoons to a quart, depending on how thick you want. So I have about, that's roughly 1.5 quart, maybe 2 quarts. So I'm going to go with 5 tablespoons of butter, 5 tablespoons of flour. So we're getting our pan hot. Got my butter. 5 tablespoons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 tablespoons right there. One, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right. Now that we know how to count to 5, tomorrow we are going to work on our colors. Get a little heat to this. Now, it's very important. You do not want to scorch your roux. It'll get kind of a dark, nutty kind of flavor to it. There's only one dish that I know of that you want to scorch it. This you got to be careful. You're going to heat it up a little bit, get the butter melted first. And as the butter's melting, we're going to measure out 5 tablespoons of flour, 2 tablespoon scoop. So I'm going to do that 2.5 times. Alright, we've got our flour. Our butter's almost melted. So I'm going to add just a little bit of the flour, maybe a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons at a time. Start stirring it around. Our butter's all the way melted, so we're going to turn this down to just about a medium low. We want to keep it hot, we don't want to scorch it. Another tablespoon or 2. Now look, see how this is starting to thicken up? Now it does have a golden color to it right at first because of the butter. But if you start to scorch it, you will know. You'll smell it, you'll see it, you'll definitely smell it. Alright, get this last little bit of flour in there. Now this will be a mild thickness. Now it'll get thicker the more flour you put to it, which will give you a much thicker stew at the end. So look what we've got now. Try to keep this in the light. Now a lot of people make the mistake of trying to thicken something just by throwing flour in there. What happens then is you just get a lot of lumps. It takes you forever to get it all mixed up. So what you need to do is take your hot liquid and add it to your roux. Doesn't matter if you get a few chunks of something in there. Just a little bit at a time. Basically what you're doing is tempering it so you don't get all the lumps, starch. See? It starts to thicken up again. So you add another scoop in there. And this is probably at the point where you might be able to start using a whisk. I could probably grab one. See, I told you, every episode I make a mess. I guess that's going to be my my trademark. Mr. Munchies, the messy chef. I don't call myself a chef. Alright, I'm going to grab a whisk. We're definitely at the whisking point. Yeah, all over the stove. See, it keeps getting thick again because that's the proteins, you know, the gluten's in the flour binding to the fat. So we'll get some more hot liquid in there. Kind of looks like chicken gravy at the moment. Yeah, I guess you could call this country gravy. Some people like it like that. Put that over their country fried steak or biscuits, your homemade buttermilk biscuits. Alright, look at this. It's almost like consistency of pudding right now. That would be a good pudding consistency. So now that we've got our roux done and tempered and everything, we can start adding it to our liquid. So let me grab this again and just spoon some in there. Mix it around. So you can see the color changing already. So we'll add a little bit more. And this way you can keep control of how thick your stew is getting. You know, if you're at that point where you say, oh, that's good enough, you stop right there. If you want a little bit thicker, just keep going. But I probably am going to use all of this because I like my stews really stewy. Nice and thick, you know, the way stew's supposed to be. You know, you can, the aromatics of this, because it's cooked for so long, is awesome. You can still smell the cumin, the chili powder, the paprika, the onions. I mean, it's very, yeah. You see this? I don't know how thick that's going to look on camera, but it's definitely getting some viscosity to it. So I'm just going to go ahead and dump the rest of this in there. Turn my burner off. And you know what? I might even go a little bit thicker on this. Maybe do another couple tablespoons. But it's there. You got some stew now. See that? It's about twice as thick as it was as a soup. Alright, so there you go. You adjust everything to suit your own taste as always. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in for this little short addendum, I guess you'd call it, for the soup. Share it with everybody you know on your contact list. I would appreciate that very much. My YouTube subscribers, thanks guys. And if you're watching this on Facebook, please share it with your friends. And no matter where you're watching it, give me some feedback so I can make things a little bit better or change things around, or maybe even if you have a recipe that you have trouble with and you'd like me to give it a try, let me know. And you can always leave that stuff in the comments section. Alright, so that'll do it for another episode of Mostly From Scratch. I am your host, Mr. Munchies, so everybody plate up and chow down.